My name is Phil Flora. For those that aren't familiar, I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at Leopard Solutions. We appreciate everyone joining today. This is the first session of a three-part series we're doing to celebrate Women's History Month. We're fortunate to have Christy Tosh Crider joining us today, Chair of the Healthcare Litigation Practice and the Women's Initiative, Baker Donelson. So we appreciate you coming on. And of course, we have Laura Leopard, CEO and founder of Leopard Solutions. And my job is really just to turn it over to you guys and let you guys take it from here. So Laura, you want to take it away?
Sure. Thank you, Phil. And thank you, Christy, for being here again. You have been a tremendous help to us getting the word out about the women's situation in law and how they can find a path to equity partnership and success at a law firm. We have been doing this for a few years now. We've done 2 women's surveys asking them how they felt about working in big law, what they felt their problems were, issues they wanted to overcome, and they were seeking ways that they could really succeed in what has been traditionally a man's world. Those surveys were groundbreaking and heartbreaking at the same time, and we wanted to rebut those surveys or come back with really constructive help for women associates that have an eye towards partnership or staying at their firm long term. And we have 2 great white papers that you can access right on our website, and you can hear some great ideas and quotes from those. Last year, we did a live event at Latham & Watkins. We had a fantastic panel of women partners that were being asked questions directly from the audience, and they came with their own stories and how they succeeded and passed along some wonderful information. So this year we thought we need to take that information and give it to as many people as possible. So we're moving that to online sessions this year. So we have 3 sessions. This is the first one where we talk about a path to equity partnership. And the others will deal with business development and other problems that women face in law. We know that women have a tendency to drop out mid-career before they hit that partner plateau. So we're going to get some wonderful advice from Christy Tosh Crider about tools you can use, help you can find, ideas that you can implement in order to make you a success and an equity partner in your firm. So we'll get right down to it because we know that time is a little short, and boy, this is a big topic to cover, right? So, Christy, when should women associates really start thinking about building that foundation to make equity partnership?
Well, first of all, thank you, Laura, for having me again this year, and thank you for all that you do for the legal industry, and in particular women in the legal industry, as we all forge our individual paths in this beautiful profession. And Phil, thank you for getting us started. To your question, Laura, of getting started, when an attorney should start to build her foundation for making equity partner, I think that starts, believe it or not, when you're in law school, because at the end of the day, there are really 3 core tenets in my mind to making equity partner, and that is skill, being a great lawyer. Second, relationships with people who can both build your team and also direct business to you. And then third and finally, business knowledge, business acumen, learning to understand the business part of a law firm and of your clients and the business part of those that you are serving. And so all of those things you can start building the foundations for from the time you're in law school throughout the entire time that you're an associate.
You know, it's interesting because we have just completed a survey of Gen Z associates, and that's going to be, we're going to have a presentation at NALP, and then we'll be sharing those results. And the first thing that they say is they were not taught that law was a business.
Well,
No, they didn't really get that memo in law school. So I think you're right. The earlier they can start, the better, right? And understanding that law is a business and that they are going to be looked to develop that business and bring dollars in.
That's so true, Laura. And a lot of that is when when you start at a law firm and as you progress, ask questions. And I still ask questions. I sit on our board of directors, and we had a meeting this morning, and I had several questions about business issues, about how the law firm is run, making sure I really understood how numbers were calculated. You're going to have questions for the rest of your career. If you keep that curiosity, that is so important to advancement. And so don't be afraid to be the person in the room that asks the hard question. There are probably 3 or 4 other people in the room who also don't know the answer to the question. We'll be so glad that you had the courage to ask it.
Absolutely true. You don't do yourself any good by pretending to know things. Yeah, you really have to ask those questions. So let's say we all want to be an equity shareholder in a law firm. What are some pitfalls that come along with that?
That's a great question. Well, we know from the statistics that a very large percentage of lawyers, and particularly women, do not finish the race from the time that they started a law firm to equity partnership. And the race doesn't stop there, because once you become an equity partner, you'll want to continue to grow your business. And as I look back over time at those who have not completed the path to equity partnership, some of the pitfalls that I have seen arise are, first, I would say short-term thinking. Unfortunately, many law firms are set up to give you an immediate reward for billing a lot of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And billing hours is time that you invest in your law firm. Whereas planting seeds for developing business often take years and years to grow. So you don't feel that immediate hit financially, otherwise. And yet it's critical to making equity shareholder to have very long-term thinking with each decision that you're making. Ask yourself, what is the ROI on this decision? And is this part of my path to equity partnership? Second, I would say a pitfall is lack of patience. Mm-hmm. It is not uncommon for it to take 10, 12, 15 years on a path to equity partnership. And one has to learn both patience and determination, but also finding joy along the way. The practice of law is a journey. It's not a destination. And once you arrive at equity partnership, the work is far from done. You have hopefully another 20 or 30 more years of work after that. And so learning to be patient and to find joy in the path. The next thing I would say, and I hope that this is received in the way it's intended, which is lack of work ethic. If you want to be the owner of any business, if you want to own a restaurant, if you want to own a retail store, there are going to be late nights. There are going to be early mornings. There are going to be times when clients have unreasonable expectations. And you've got to learn to navigate those things. And becoming an equity partner is hard work. And my parents, they gave me the gift of demonstrating joy in professions that were incredibly hard work. And my dad was a policeman and my mom was a school teacher, and both came home and told fantastical stories about their days. My mom graded papers at night. My dad would get called, that there was a hostage situation and would leave the house at 7 o'clock at night. But it was never begrudgingly. It was always with a sense of joy and being thankful that they had a job that they felt so passionately about, that they wanted to do those things that were outside of just this box of business hours. And so I would say lack of work ethic. Next, I would say the failure to think about building a team and building a team early. So if you are doing all of the work that you bring in yourself, and you're not building a good, strong team of people around you who have your best interest at heart and you have their best interest at heart, you can't truly build a book, because then you won't have people to help you service that book. And so building a team. And then the final thing I would offer, Laura, is the failure to take risks. If I look back at the biggest moments of growth in my career, each one of those was preceded by a moment where I was terrified at whatever the new thing was that I had just decided I was going to take on, and just decided I was going to learn how to do, and just decided that I can do this without bringing in someone above me. I am ready. And getting comfortable with taking risks is incredibly important. And I will conclude the answer to this question with, I was talking with the only female president of a Smithsonian museum and asked her how she dealt with failure, right? Because risk is being afraid of failure. And she said, and this has stuck with me, this conversation was 10 years ago. She said, Christy, if you hit the bullseye every time, you've got the target way too close. And so each time I've seen one of my arrows fly off and like maybe miss the target entirely, forget the bullseye, I've had to remind myself in that moment of failure that I took a risk, and that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. The way that you're describing your journey it sounds very entrepreneurial, right? There's a lot of things about being an entrepreneur that I'm hearing through this story, because they're very similar. You have to build your business, you have to sell your work, you have to build it up from the ground up. Even though you belong to a big organization, to a big law firm, it's really up to you. And I couldn't agree more about failure. They always say you learn more from your failures than you do from your wins. And if every win is easy, the stakes are not high enough. Yeah. That's great. That's brilliant. Is that a good way for women to think about it, that they're really an entrepreneur in this situation?
Absolutely. And when you're looking for a law firm, you want to find a law firm that embraces entrepreneurial spirits. Mm-hmm. And when you have a great new idea, will help you figure out how to facilitate that idea. Great equity partners are not built on a linear path that someone else laid out for them. Great equity partners with big books of business are, as you said beautifully, Laura, they're entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I have another question about what you just said, and it's about that finding joy for women that are struggling finding that joy. They a lot of pressures, but it also might come from the type of work that they're doing, right? Could it be they really haven't found that right niche that they really can embrace and find that joy in?
That's a great question. And very reasonable minds will differ on the answer to that question, Laura. And let me tell you, you and I may come down differently on this. My thought is one can find joy in hard work and meeting a client's needs and being the person that solves the problem that was keeping them up at night. Okay. And for me, my path to equity partner was finding an area that didn't already have someone in my firm who was the expert. And then looking beyond that and asking, was there anyone in my state who was the expert? And then building that. And if I look back to my goals list from 18 years ago, it said, become the best long-term care attorney in the country. I did not wake up one day, Laura, and say, gosh, you know what gets my juices going? Nursing homes. That didn't happen to me. I didn't have that epiphany moment. But I did have the epiphany moment where I saw a need that wasn't met. And I knew I had the work ethic and could surround myself with enough people and information to be able to meet that need. Mm-hmm. And I found joy in that. And then my love for the long-term care industry grew as I worked with it year after year. And now I am passionate about it. But my passion for what I do was not what led me to my niche. Yeah. What led me to the niche was the business opportunities that I saw around that, right? And so I think there is some element to what you just articulated in the premise of your question, which is that you do need to be doing something you find joy in. But I also think that most importantly is to identify where the needs are and then ask yourself, if I am meeting clients' needs in this area, will that bring me joy? Can that bring me joy? And I hope that the answer for most people will be yes. If the answer is not yes, then yeah, you got to go find something that's going to. Because if you're going to spending this many hours a week and of your life devoted to this, you've got to be able to find some joy in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One question, and this really came from the last session that we did at Latham. They talked about there sort of being a hump in the career where things get very difficult. There's a lot of work expectations, there's a lot of pressure, but then at a certain moment, when you pass that hump, things do become easier down the line. It doesn't mean that there's still not hard work involved, but that if women can just make it past that difficult portion, things do get better. They wanted to assure the group, things do get better. Trust us, trust us. Could you speak to that a little?
Well, I do think that there is a lot of truth in what you just said, Laura. And generally, I observed that hump. And for me, that hump was right after you make, or right before and right after you make income shareholder. And I think the reason that that hump exists there is so much of making income shareholder is, in most firms, tailored around meeting billable hours expectation with some component of building your client base, but it's not the biggest part of the focus. And then once you make income shareholder, the billable hour thing is just table stakes. And it's what are you going to do to grow your book to get over the hump to equity shareholder? And that kind of goes back to the comment I made in response to your question about pitfalls, which is the short-term thinking. And that is short-term thinking, I've got to get to income shareholder. I'm going to bill hours, and you're not thinking about the book. And that hump comes in the middle. And the thing that layers itself on top of that competing interest of both billing hours and also building business is that happens to be for men and women a time when a lot of them are building their families. And so you have on this layered time commitment of growing your family. And how do you get past that hump? Well, first of all, you just hunker down. And as you said, Laura, know it's going to get better. Know it's going to get better. There will come a day, as I have realized, both of my children are graduating from college in a 3-month window period right now, where they grow up and they fly off and they leave you and you miss them and you miss the days where you were like falling asleep reading a book in your suit that you'd worn to work that day, and you wake up and you think, oh my gosh, where am I and what have I got left to do tonight? And you actually miss it. I know that's hard to believe right now, but you're going to miss it. And so I think hunkering down, and then also if you're still at the point where you're making a decision about where you want to build your career, ask yourself, what are the support systems that this law firm has in place to help me get past that hump? And hopefully that is a completely gender neutral parental leave policy that is generous, because the barrier comes down for women when we're all doing it and we're all taking the time that we need to build our families. What are they doing to help women get to equity partnership? At my firm, we have a Women to Equity Partner program that you and I have talked about before, Laura, where we take 12 to 14 women and we help them get past that hump that they see. And then also ask yourself, when you're in that hump, apart from what my law firm offers, what are the things that I can be doing to nurture myself during this hump? Can I be, calling in additional people, hiring people to do things for me at home that don't bring me joy?
Yeah.
And it's probably yes, right? We can delegate a few more things out. And so, yes, I see the hump, and it does get better.
It does. It's funny. They said the same thing. Hire a nanny, hire a maid, and anywhere that you can get help, get help. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what the Women's Initiative does at your firm to help those women progress? Like, what are the concrete steps that it helps them take?
So our Baker Women is made up of about a dozen committees, which are each based on listening meetings where women told me what support they could use that they didn't feel like they were getting entirely. And we've had those committees in place for a little over 10 years at this point. And one of those is the Business Development Committee, where we help women develop their books of business. And another is the Pathways to Leadership Committee, where we help our women learn the skills to advance into positions of leadership, both in the firm and also in the communities that we serve. And one of the programs that was the brainchild of those two committees coming together was our Women to Equity program. And we take applications from women equity or income shareholders each April. And we ask them, one of the questions is it your goal to get to equity in the next 3 years? And we ask a number of questions. We have them attach their business plan, because if they don't yet have a business plan, they're probably not ready for our program yet. That's table stakes. And then once we get our core group of women together, you stay in our program until you graduate. It's not 1 year, it's not 2 years. You are with us until you graduate, and then we send you off, and you're an alumni, and we open up a spot each time a woman graduates. So generally we have 4, 5, 6 women graduate a year, which opens up that many spots in our program. And we meet consistently every month. And every other month we meet as a group, and we bring in a different faculty member from within the firm to talk about one of those skill sets that you and I talked about at the beginning of this program: building teams, a great business plan. One of my favorite programs that you would love, and I think Phil would love as well, is understanding the business side of the law firm. And I just picked someone who I think is really, really good in the firm at that particular skill set of being an equity partner. And we give the women some talking points to think about before we take them through the 1 hour program. And then on the off months, they each have an accountability partner in the group. And that pair has an equity shareholder mentor, and the 3 of them get together to talk about what they heard the last month and how they're going to incorporate that into their path to equity. And in the past 5 years since we started that program, our women rising to equity shareholder has hit almost 50%. And in a few years, it exceeded the 50% mark of our whole class. So we are seeing incredible results with just this very tailored approach.
Well, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. And as we see the women classes, the numbers are getting bigger, on the associate level. The numbers of women they're overtaking men. There's more women in college than men. There's more women in law school than men. There's more women coming in from law school into these law firms. How do you see that changing, or do you see that making that path easier or more difficult for women?
I don't think the number of women coming in at the associate level will change the difficulty of getting to equity partner. What I do think is the challenge for law firms right now is that this generation is going to demand a different path. And the way we've done things before, the law firms that say, this is our rigid model, we're not making adjustments for a new generation, those firms are going to lose incredible amounts of talent that would have serviced their clients beautifully and serviced the firm beautifully. And so the challenge for law firms who want to thrive with this new generation that you talk about, Laura, is we have to create multiple beautiful paths to success. And they have to feel successful to those who are on them. And they have to land somewhere exciting, somewhere that's worth working hard to get to. And so I would say, Laura, I don't think the number of women coming in is going to change the difficulty of their paths to equity partnership. But I do think that the composition of this generation that's coming up is going to force our law firms to take a very fresh look that we probably should have looked at decades ago about, and I hate calling them alternate paths. I think they're just all equally exciting paths. Some may move quicker than others. They're all going to look different, but that's how we capture the talent that makes law firms great.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I could not agree. Change is coming, whether they're ready for it or not. Change is here. Change is here. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This is, we could talk for another hour and a half, I think, but I so appreciate you taking the time and sharing your thoughts. Is there anything you want to leave for our attendees today? Any final word?
I would just say you've chosen a beautiful profession. When you hit the hump, when you get past the hump, keep your chin up. I mean, a positive attitude coupled with great work ethic, and always be asking yourself the question of your why. Why is it that you want to continue to do this? And you are all welcome to reach out to me. You can find my email on my firm website if you have any follow-up questions. I'm happy to talk with you about them. And thank you, Laura, and thank you, Phil, for inviting me again this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. We so appreciate it. And what wonderful words that you shared with us today, and words of advice. So we thank you very much.
Thank you, Christy. And for everyone else, great questions and comments. There were some good comments. There was some questions about business development and so on and so forth. We will be having 2 more sessions of this for those that registered. I dropped the link into the chat. I'm going to do it again, just so you can register for future sessions. We'll have one next week with Merle Vaughn, managing partner from Major Lindsay in Africa, and then on March 27th with Alyssa Gershak she's a partner with Sidley Austin. So there's some information on there. But thank you again, Christy. We really appreciate it as always. And thanks everyone for joining today.
Thank you. See you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.